There is a moment every man has experienced. Everything seems right. The conversation is good, the attraction feels real, the interest is there. And then suddenly, it's gone. Replies slow down, energy changes, she feels distant, and most men never understand why. They assume she found someone better. They assume they weren't attractive enough. They assume women are unpredictable. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. Women don't lose interest fast. Men kill interest quickly. And they do it in the same way almost every time. Here is the mistake that causes it. The moment a man senses attraction, he changes his emotional position. Not consciously, internally. He leans. He starts monitoring outcomes. He starts investing faster. He starts adjusting himself to keep her interested. And that shift is felt immediately, not logically, biologically. A woman's nervous system is extremely sensitive to emotional changes. The moment you move from grounded to outcome-dependent, attraction begins to decay. This is the part most men never hear. Interest does not disappear because you did something wrong. It disappears because you stopped being who you were when attraction started. Think about it. When she was interested, you weren't trying. You weren't chasing. You weren't securing. You were present. You were relaxed. You were self-contained. Then interest appeared, and instead of staying centered, you leaned toward it. That lean is the mistake. Not texting too much, not saying the wrong thing, not being boring. The lean. Leaning communicates need. Need creates pressure. Pressure activates resistance. Resistance kills desire. This is why women often lose interest right after things go well, right after a great date, right after intimacy, right after connection. Because success destabilizes men emotionally. They start protecting something that didn't need protection. Another uncomfortable truth is this. Women don't lose interest in men. They lose interest in men who start needing outcomes. The moment your happiness depends on her response, the dynamic shifts. She feels it instantly, and that feeling turns desire off. Another truth most men don't want to accept is this. Interest fades when a man starts seeking reassurance. Reassurance sounds subtle. It looks like, did I say something wrong? Are we okay? Why are you quiet? What's going on? These questions feel reasonable, but emotionally they signal insecurity. Insecurity collapses attraction. Another layer of the mistake is emotional acceleration. Most men speed up when interest appears. They text faster, they reply quicker, they push plans sooner, they escalate more. Speed signals urgency. Urgency signals scarcity. Scarcity activates caution. Caution turns interest into distance. Another uncomfortable truth is this. Women lose interest when men try to lock in attraction. Locking in feels safe to the man, but to a woman's nervous system, it feels like pressure. Pressure removes freedom. Freedom is required for desire. Another layer is emotional over-availability. Availability without boundaries feels cheap, not because she wants to chase, but because value is felt through selectivity. Men who give everything immediately feel replaceable. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men explain themselves too much. Over-explaining signals fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being misunderstood signals low self-trust. Low self-trust is unattractive. Another truth most men never hear is this. Women don't lose interest because you weren't enough. They lose interest because you stopped trusting yourself. Self-trust is the foundation of attraction. The moment you outsource your emotional stability to her reaction, attraction collapses. Another layer of the mistake is emotional mirroring. Men mirror moods to stay connected. They adjust energy constantly. This removes polarity. Polarity fuels desire. Without polarity, attraction fades into neutrality. Another uncomfortable truth is that women lose interest when men stop leading themselves. Leadership here is not dominance, it is emotional self-command. The man who cannot regulate himself forces her nervous system to stay alert. Alertness is exhausting. Exhaustion kills desire. Another realization is that women lose interest when men turn curiosity into certainty too fast. Curiosity keeps attention alive. Certainty ends pursuit. Most men rush to define. Definition collapses intrigue. Another uncomfortable truth is this: interest fades when a man starts behaving as if attraction is fragile. Fragility signals fear. Fear turns desire off instantly. Another layer is emotional entitlement. Men feel entitled to interest once it appears. Entitlement feels heavy. Desire needs lightness. Another truth is that women lose interest when men react emotionally to shifts. Distance appears. She pulls back slightly. Men panic. Panic signals dependence. Dependence activates avoidance. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men make them the center of their emotional world. Being chosen feels good. Being responsible feels suffocating. Another deep truth is this: interest is sustained by non-neediness, not effort. Effort signals trying. Trying signals lack. Lack kills attraction. This is why women lose interest fast, not because attraction was weak, but because the man unknowingly turned it off. By leaning, by needing, by securing, by reacting. This is the foundation, because once you understand the mistake, everything becomes clear. Attraction doesn't disappear randomly. It disappears the moment you abandon your center. And this is only the first layer of why it happens. Once that first lean happens, everything after it accelerates the loss of interest. Not because women are cruel, but because attraction is extremely sensitive to emotional imbalance. The more a man tries to fix fading interest, the faster it disappears. This is the paradox most men never understand. Interest fades not from neglect, but from emotional overcorrection. When a woman senses a shift in your internal state, her nervous system registers it as instability. Instability creates caution. Caution turns into distance. Distance triggers panic. Panic confirms her instinct, and the loop completes. Another uncomfortable truth is this: women lose interest when men start seeking permission emotionally. Permission to text, permission to plan, permission to escalate, permission to exist in her space. Permission seeking places her above you emotionally. Hierarchy kills polarity. Polarity fuels desire. Another layer of the mistake is emotional transparency without structure. Most men think openness builds attraction. It doesn't. Unfiltered emotional exposure creates familiarity. Familiarity without polarity kills desire. The men women stay interested in reveal themselves slowly, not fully. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men confuse availability with intimacy. Availability is access. Intimacy is depth. Depth requires time. When men give access too fast, there's nothing left to discover. Discovery keeps interest alive. Another truth is this: women lose interest when men start narrating the relationship. Narration turns experience into analysis. Analysis kills emotion. Emotion sustains attraction. Another layer is emotional inflation. Men inflate affection too quickly. Compliments increase. Affection escalates. Attention spikes. Inflation creates emotional imbalance. Imbalance triggers correction. Correction looks like distance. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men stop living their lives. Life pauses. Schedules open. Priorities shift. That shift communicates scarcity. Scarcity repels desire. Another truth is this: women lose interest when men become emotionally available without being emotionally grounded. Availability without grounding feels unstable. Grounding allows availability to feel safe. Another deep realization is that women lose interest when men respond to attraction with attachment. Attachment too early feels heavy. Heavy emotions create resistance. Another uncomfortable truth is that women lose interest when men stop challenging themselves. Not her, themselves. Men who stop growing lose energy. Energy attracts interest. Another layer is emotional dependence disguised as romance. Dependence feels flattering briefly, then it feels suffocating. Suffocation kills desire. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men make attraction the center of their identity. Identity collapse is felt immediately. Attraction cannot survive around collapsed identity. Another deep truth is this: women lose interest when men interpret silence as rejection. Silence is space. Space allows desire to breathe. Filling space suffocates it. Another uncomfortable truth is that women lose interest when men try to stabilize the connection prematurely. Stability too early feels restrictive. Restriction triggers escape instincts. Another layer is emotional entitlement. Men feel entitled to consistency. Attraction is not a contract. Entitlement creates resentment. Resentment repels desire. Another realization is that women lose interest when men fear losing them. Fear of loss leaks into tone, pace, and behavior. Leakage turns attraction off. Another deep truth is that interest fades when men stop being internally still. Stillness is attractive. Reactivity is not. Another uncomfortable truth is that women lose interest when men try to be liked instead of being centered. Being liked is unstable. Being centered is solid. Another layer is emotional chasing disguised as effort. Effort without need is attractive. Effort with need is repellent. Another realization is that women lose interest when men stop trusting the process. Distrust creates control. Control kills desire. Another deep truth is this: women don't lose interest because attraction wasn't real. They lose interest because the man interrupted it by leaning, by chasing, by securing, by reacting. And once you see this, you stop blaming women. You stop blaming timing. You stop blaming luck. You start seeing the pattern. And patterns can be changed. Not by doing more, but by doing less of what kills attraction. And that's where most men finally begin to turn things around. As interest continues to fade, most men make the same fatal assumption. They believe something external caused it. Her mood, her past, her options, her inconsistency. But attraction doesn't collapse from the outside. It collapses from internal misalignment. The moment a man stops acting from his center and starts acting from fear of loss, the shift is already complete. And here's the part almost no one understands. Women don't lose interest because men show interest. They lose interest because men lose themselves inside interest. There is a difference. Interest expressed from wholeness feels attractive. Interest expressed from need feels heavy. Most men don't notice when that line is crossed, but women feel it instantly. Another uncomfortable truth is this: women lose interest when men start over-validating her presence. Validation is powerful only when it's selective. When validation becomes constant, it loses meaning. And meaningless validation feels empty. Another layer of the mistake is emotional flooding. Men start sharing too much too fast. Their fears, their intentions, their hopes, their insecurities. Depth without pacing overwhelms. Overwhelm creates withdrawal. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men become emotionally transparent without emotional strength. Transparency without containment feels unstable. Containment is what makes openness attractive. Another deep truth is this: women lose interest when men treat attraction as a finish line. Once attraction appears, men relax their standards. They tolerate more, they excuse behavior, they soften boundaries. Softened boundaries collapse respect. Without respect, attraction cannot survive. Another layer is emotional overinvestment. Men invest more than is being returned. Imbalance grows. Imbalance creates discomfort. Discomfort triggers distance. Another uncomfortable truth is that women lose interest when men stop being unpredictable in the right way. Not chaotic, but alive. Alive men respond from themselves, not scripts. Scripted behavior feels flat. Flatness kills desire. Another realization is that women lose interest when men start asking for emotional certainty. Certainty feels good to men, but certainty removes curiosity. Curiosity fuels attraction. Another layer is emotional monitoring. Men monitor texts, monitor tone, monitor response times. Monitoring creates tension. Tension leaks. Leakage repels attraction. Another uncomfortable truth is that women lose interest when men start competing silently with other men. Competition reveals insecurity. Insecurity is felt. And another deep realization is that women lose interest when men become emotionally rigid. Rigidity feels fragile. Flexibility feels strong. Another layer is emotional bargaining. Men bargain for affection. I did this, so you should feel that. Transactional energy kills desire. Another uncomfortable truth is that women lose interest when men start reacting to her reactions. Reaction-based behavior feels unstable. Stability sustains attraction. Another realization is that women lose interest when men become emotionally predictable after winning interest. Winning interest is not the end. Treating it like the end ends everything. Another deep truth is this: women lose interest when men confuse connection with possession. Connection invites closeness. Possession invites resistance. Another layer is emotional attachment speed mismatch. Men attach faster. Faster attachment creates imbalance. Imbalance triggers correction. Correction looks like distance. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men start narrating their feelings. Narration moves emotion from experience into analysis. Analysis kills desire. Another deep truth is that women lose interest when men stop being grounded during uncertainty. Uncertainty is inevitable. The man who remains grounded becomes attractive. The man who panics repels. Another layer is emotional entitlement to attention. Attention is given, not owed. Entitlement creates pressure. Pressure kills desire. Another uncomfortable truth is that women lose interest when men treat attention as validation. Validation-seeking collapses polarity. Polarity sustains attraction. Another deep realization is that women lose interest when men abandon their purpose. Purpose anchors identity. Without it, attraction floats away. Another layer is emotional inconsistency. Men become inconsistent in values to maintain closeness. Inconsistency creates distrust. Distrust kills attraction. Another uncomfortable truth is that women lose interest when men fear silence. Silence is space. Space allows desire to breathe. Filling space suffocates it. Another deep truth is this: women lose interest when men stop leading themselves. Leadership here means emotional self-command. Without it, attraction decays. Another uncomfortable realization is that interest does not fade suddenly. It erodes, moment by moment, through small leaks of need, small adjustments, small reactions, and by the time men notice, it's already gone. But here's the important part: this process is reversible. Not by chasing harder, not by explaining more, not by proving value, but by returning to center. Because the moment you stop leaning, attraction has space to return. This is where most men get it wrong. They think attraction needs stimulation. It doesn't. It needs stability. And once stability is restored, interest stops running away. It slows, then it pauses, and sometimes it returns. But only if you stop doing the one thing that killed it in the first place. And there is still a deeper layer to this that most men never address. The deeper reason interest disappears is not behavior. It is emotional position. Attraction lives in position, not action. And the moment a man shifts from leading himself to orbiting her reactions, interest begins to decay. This is the part most men resist accepting because it means the mistake is internal, not external. Another uncomfortable truth is this: women don't lose interest because men care. They lose interest because men start caring about being cared about. That subtle shift changes everything. Caring is attractive. Needing care is not. Another layer of the mistake is emotional outsourcing. Men begin outsourcing their emotional regulation to her responses. If she texts, they feel good. If she doesn't, they feel anxious. That dependence is felt instantly, and dependence turns desire into obligation. Obligation kills attraction. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men start waiting. Waiting to text, waiting for replies, waiting for reassurance, waiting for plans. Waiting signals pause in life. Paused life feels stagnant. Stagnation kills desire. Another deep truth is this: women lose interest when men become emotionally reactive to normal human fluctuation. Interest rises, interest falls. This is natural. Men who treat fluctuation as danger fail. Men who treat it as normal pass. Another layer is emotional over-availability, disguised as kindness. Kindness without boundaries feels cheap. Boundaried kindness feels valuable. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men start shaping their personalities around what gets approval. Approval-seeking dissolves identity. Identity is the anchor of attraction. Another deep truth is that women lose interest when men stop trusting silence. Silence is not rejection, it is space. Space allows desire to stretch. Men who fill space collapse it. Another layer is emotional self-betrayal. Men say yes when they want to say no. They tolerate what they don't respect. They abandon standards to maintain closeness. Self-betrayal destroys attraction faster than any mistake. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men become emotionally serious too soon. Seriousness closes playfulness. Playfulness sustains desire. Another deep truth is this: women lose interest when men try to emotionally stabilize the connection. Stability imposed is restriction. Stability earned is safety. Another layer is emotional need disguised as commitment. Commitment before alignment feels heavy. Heavy emotions trigger avoidance. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men stop being internally decisive. Indecision feels weak. Decisiveness feels grounded. Another deep truth is that women lose interest when men become emotionally dependent on momentum. Momentum rises and falls. Identity must not. Another layer is emotional justification. Men justify their worth. Worth that needs justification collapses. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men start negotiating attraction. Negotiation implies scarcity. Scarcity repels desire. Another deep truth is that women lose interest when men become emotionally apologetic for existing. Apology energy feels low. Low energy kills attraction. Another layer is emotional inconsistency under pressure. Men who change under pressure feel unreliable. Reliability sustains attraction. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men try to be chosen instead of choosing themselves. Self-choice is magnetic. Another deep truth is this: women lose interest when men confuse emotional closeness with emotional responsibility. She wants connection, not management. Another layer is emotional fear of being misunderstood. Fear creates over-explanation. Over-explanation collapses polarity. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men stop being internally still. Stillness is confidence without performance. Another deep truth is that women lose interest when men react emotionally to ambiguity. Ambiguity is normal. The man who remains calm inside it is attractive. Another layer is emotional future projection. Projecting too far forward creates pressure. Pressure kills desire. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men treat attraction like a scarce resource. Scarcity thinking leaks fear. Fear repels. Another deep truth is this: interest does not fade because women are fickle. It fades because men shift away from themselves. They abandon their center to secure something that didn't require securing. And once you see this clearly, the solution becomes obvious. Not chase less, not text less, not act indifferent, but return to center. Return to who you were before interest appeared. The man who was relaxed, present, unmoved. That man is what she was responding to. And as long as that man stays alive inside you, interest does not need to be forced. It sustains itself. But there is still one final layer most men never understand, because even after they stop chasing, they still sabotage attraction in a quieter way. The final reason women lose interest is not chasing, it's self-abandonment disguised as patience. Men stop chasing, but internally they are still waiting. Waiting for messages, waiting for validation, waiting for certainty. And that waiting is felt, because emotional position is not defined by behavior. It's defined by where your attention lives. If your attention lives on her response, interest drains. Even if you act calm, even if you text less, even if you say the right things. Women don't respond to what you do, they respond to what you are anchored to. Another uncomfortable truth is this: interest collapses when a man stops choosing himself internally. Self-choice is not arrogance, it's alignment. When you choose yourself, attraction feels free. When you abandon yourself, attraction feels heavy. Another realization is that women lose interest when men try to fix attraction instead of continuing their life. Fixing implies loss. Loss creates fear. Fear leaks. Another deep truth is that women lose interest when men confuse emotional discipline with emotional suppression. Suppression creates tension. Tension leaks. The man who is honest but grounded remains attractive. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men treat distance as a problem. Distance is a test of self-trust. The man who passes continues living. The man who fails pauses. Another deep truth is this: interest stays alive when a man's life continues to expand, not around her, beyond her. Expansion creates gravity. Gravity attracts. Another layer is emotional resilience. Resilient men don't collapse when interest fluctuates. Fluctuation is normal. Collapse is not. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men make attraction the most important thing in their lives. Importance creates pressure. Pressure kills desire. Another deep truth is that women lose interest when men stop respecting their own time. Time disrespect leaks low value. Another layer is emotional independence. Independence is not distance, it is self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency feels safe to desire. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men stay emotionally available without being emotionally fulfilled. Fulfillment must come from within, not from her attention. Another deep truth is this: interest does not need maintenance, it needs non-interference. Most men interfere constantly. They adjust, they secure, they react, they monitor, and every interference weakens attraction. Another uncomfortable realization is that women lose interest when men stop being present and start being strategic. Strategy replaces authenticity. Authenticity sustains attraction. Another deep truth is that women lose interest when men forget that attraction began before effort, before chasing, before proving, before securing. It began when you were unconcerned with outcome. That is the state attraction responds to. Another realization is that women lose interest when men fear losing interest. Fear becomes behavior. Behavior leaks. Another deep truth is this: the mistake that causes women to lose interest fast is not obvious, it is subtle. It is internal. It is abandoning your center to protect an outcome. And once you stop doing that, attraction no longer collapses. It stabilizes. Quietly, naturally, without force. Now, if this video helped you finally understand why interest fades and what men unknowingly do to kill it, there is one video you should watch next, because attraction does not disappear randomly. It is switched off. And that switch is controlled by one internal shift. That's exactly what I explain in my video called The Psychological Switch That Makes Women Desire You Instantly. That video breaks down how desire turns on, why most men turn it off, and how staying centered keeps attraction alive without effort. Watch that next, because once you understand both why interest dies and how desire is triggered, attraction stops feeling confusing. It becomes a response to who you are, not what you say, not what you do, but where you stand emotionally. And when you stay there, interest doesn't disappear. It stays.